Morning, guys. Michelle here in Ghana again. I started a video yesterday that I intended posting regarding the steps I took to deal with the house in terms of the building permit. Like Jamaica, because it's very similar. You submit your plans and so on to get it. And as I discovered yesterday, like Jamaica, their pricing is determined by the square footage, basically. When I first heard that there was a warning in a group that I was in on WhatsApp that we should all remember that we need our building permit. No, for those who have watched my previous videos, you will know that my property was purchased and building started before, so I wouldn't know the process or anything. I wouldn't know what I have missed, and many things came out when I got here. So that was one of the things that came out when I got here. The fact that I needed to have had a building permit. Reached out to someone and I was informed that I would have to do it in reverse, because I said, I am assuming I don't have, and I reached out to the person who purchased the property. The person who purchased the property said they didn't because I didn't have the money. While I preferred to have been told, so I made a choice, there was nothing to be done about it. All right, it's passed, it's done. I have started building, right? At the time I heard too, I didn't have the money to start the process. So with this sort of refund, that was one of the things I went ahead and did. I paid $3,500 for the plans. Two, the person who gave me the information made a reference that when I was ready, they said I would probably have to pay like a total of $3,500, two for the architectural drawings and $1,500 for the permits. Well, it didn't work out that way. The plans alone was for 3,500 cedis, and when I went to the district council, I guess it's Abradunka or Dukwa. I'm not sure I am getting the pronunciation as usual. But when I went there and I was told the information on the steps that were being taken or would be taken, of course they asked me if I started building. They didn't act anyway, like it was going to be too much of a problem. I don't know definitively yet, but I didn't act as if it was going to be too much of a problem that I had started building already. And they had to get some photocopies. Surprisingly, I was there worried about the cost of the photocopies. They needed two copies of my indenture. And I was taken to this place who does copies. And it didn't cost me more than, I think it cost me 16 cedis for the two copies. And those who know, who have already purchased property here and they know what the indenture look like, it's a couple pages, quite a few pages. I think about 10 or so pages, or a little less than 10. I need to count those pages. But it was just 16 cedis for the copies. And I went back. And when I went back, I was told that it's stages, yes. They go through the documents, have a meeting to decide, and then a representative comes to the property and the decision is made. But at that point, I had to pay a partial of the money, and then when it's approved, I pay another portion. Of course, that got me scared. And I was rightly scared because then and there they were saying 2,000 cedis for the first payment. So I say, if 2,000 is the first payment, what's gonna be the second payment? And they said, well, it wouldn't be 2,000. So I don't know if it was the expression on my face. One of the gentlemen said, take 1.5. And it remind me of a thought I had when I did my tax returns last year. When I was doing my tax returns last year, there was a place that I reached out to and asked the price. One place told, quite a number of places I checked because I was searching for someone who could, do the tax returns. And I remember one of them said 750, another said 500, another said, and the returns that I was going to be looking forward to. I know the 750 was more than the returns that they were saying that I was going to get. So I was actually going to be paying money and not getting anything, right? I think that person said I was getting 250 in returns. Another person said 270. I know guys understand my reaction. My reaction to these prices was based on the fact that since I got to the US in 2019 and have been filing taxes, I've never paid over 200. Once I paid over 200, but I've always paid 100, 150, right? So a person who said 270, I think they were saying that I would get about 500 returns. So I told them I've never paid 270. And I remember they dropped, I think to 150 or 200. My problem with that was, if you could charge 150 or 200, why say 270, And I always end up distrusting that process where someone gives you a price and then they back off the price they give and give another price. My thought always is, why give the first price if the second price is acceptable? So it was one of those flashback moments, and my immediate distrust of the process, the cost I was being quoted, the price I was being quoted, just, made me flounder a bit, and it sent me down a rabbit hole, basically. And the idea that you are at the mercy over and over of people in power who decide your fate, whether financially, emotionally, or otherwise. And of course, another tangent to that is the idea of freedom. People, Americans, hold firmly to the belief that they are free. It's a free country and but they can't. It's one of those countries that is tied to so many systems. It's not funny. And it always smacks me of irony. How ironical it is that they scream so much about being free. The country, I'm not talking about any individual now for persons to attack me. I'm just saying that they scream about freedom over and over, and the country is free and so on. And it is the most tied up system for living I've ever. And I'm saying this, just my opinion. I'm just saying this based on living in Jamaica, I'm living in the US, I know living in. But they're all the same in terms of systems that hold you ransom to processes that you can't do, you can't avoid them. You can't avoid the doctoral system in the US because unless you decide definitively, I ain't going to the doctor. But the minute you set foot in a medical facility in the US, they have a system so lined up that if you're not thinking and you're not careful, you spend years Like, those little pets that run in this little wheel thing. Yeah, it's like that. And I've been a part of the medical process there. And because I don't like to spend money unnecessarily, and they tell me, oh, we're setting an appointment for follow-up. I'm asking follow-up for what? And I remember one of the time they said, to diagnose my issue. I said, but you just did that. What you need to do is to tell me what's the solution, or they have to do more tests. And if you are somebody who just follow processes without questioning, it means you constantly go back to every appointment and keep paying and paying. And you know what? I never did find out exactly what was wrong. I heard about possibilities and potential for, but I never. And it's the same thing here. I know these are my discoveries here. People talk about freedom, but what is freedom? What is freedom really? As far as I'm concerned, the only way you experience freedom is if you live in an area where that is not tied to any kind of system. But here, you build free. Build free in the sense that once you have your money and you pay for your permit to build, you build. Nobody bothers you after that. Well, it's unlikely, but it's not an impossibility. But how free are we when we talk about freedom if we are tied to various systems? And it sent me down another road where it concerns spirituality. And there's so many persons now, even here, who talk about the Bible, or lack thereof, the fact that it's not truth. It's touched by men, and it's not true, and you can't believe it. And then those who say a God don't exist, as if saying these things, intellectualizing, for example, the existence of God and the truth of the scripture, or the fact that it was inspired by the Most High, as if saying that and saying that God does not exist make it true. When I believe that if you try to deny that he exists, it doesn't wipe him out, it really wipes you out, wipes your existence out. But that's just me, right? I know I took a divert, but I'm just saying that, going back to how I started, I looked about my thing yesterday, my permit. I'm hoping that after paying that 1,500 cedis, I don't have to go back to paying another 1,500 cedis. I'm hoping that I don't have to pay anything, but I'm thinking that since it started out with 1,500 and they're insisting that I will have to pay another amount when it's approved, I girding my loins, because the refund has petered out at this point. I'm counting pennies now for the things I wanted. I know I got some major things done, and I'm thanking the Most High for that. I started out wanting to do a whole lot more on the kitchen, so that I wanted to do my tank, the stand, make it into a storeroom and a stand, because I can't keep storing cement and tools in the house. But another time, another opportunity, I know the Most High is going to give me other opportunities to do other things. I have some things in the potentially that can be earn me some income, and then I have other things that I'm doing that I'm looking forward to, resolving, so that I can get some more. So for those who saw the storm, the aftermath of the thunderstorm recently, that a video that I did, yeah, I'm tuckered out. I don't have the drive to tackle that gate again. So I'm hoping that I can find some cash to ask the well, a carpenter, the one who did my ceiling joints, to tackle the gates for me, the small one and the larger one. In fact, I cannot use a solid board because when those wind hits, believe you me, they're not going to survive. So I consulted with him yesterday and he gave me an idea of how it can be done. What I need to find out now is what it's gonna cost me. And then now the roof has to be done. But for those persons who have purchased property and you're thinking of building, I'm going to give you the advice that was given to me by one of the persons who sell lands here. Try and sort out your building permits before you start building. I don't know if there's going to be repercussions for me building first or having started building because it's not finished. I'm not the only one, but to be on the safe side, try and work with that. Work on that before you move on to building. All right. I hope the information I gave helps somebody, clarify some things for somebody else or both. And definitely see you in another video. I'm heading over to my brother's property. I got the 2 coconut trees for him. The properties here, Focus Lands, when they sell, they offer clients 2 coconut trees for you to plant on your property. So I got my brother's 2 yesterday. So I'm going to see if I can do that before workmen come to help me with the kitchen. All right. So again, this is Michelle, living in Ghana. Moved here last year, May, and I'm still learning things, sharing my experiences as I discover Ghana. So I'll see you in another video.